most money you've made in the year?
I actually don't know, but I can tell you Grenade's now worth $1 billion. Here she is.
How would you make your first million today? Is there like an untapped gap in the market? What's the $1 billion business opportunity?
You want a blueprint, don't you? You actually want the secret sauce.
Yo, my people, welcome back to the Venture Room, the #1 platform for stylish entrepreneurs. Today, we've got an absolute huge one. We're meeting the founder of Grenade that went from 1K to $1 billion in his FMCG business. And today, we're going to learn exactly how he did it and how you can do the same. Let's go.
We've been running with the lions, lions. We've been running with the lions, lions.
Morning.
Alan, how's it going?
Hello, how are you?
Good morning,
Good
how you
to see
doing?
you. Thanks for coming.
How are you doing today? Feeling good?
Yeah, what a beautiful day for it as well.
Yeah.
Time to spare, go by air.
For people that don't know, what do you do for a living?
I'm the founder of a performance nutrition company called Grenade.
And because of your success, what's the most money you've made in the year?
I actually don't know.
Okay.
But I can tell you Grenade's now worth $1 billion.
Oh my God, congrats.
I also don't think I'm successful because I look at other people who I think are successful. Someone's always got a bigger brain and a faster plane. You've got to stay hungry because if you think you've done it, there's no drive, there's no hunger to go and do something else. The danger of that is you're never satisfied. So years ago, I thought, I'm content, I've achieved everything I could possibly want to achieve, and that's great, but it's okay to do more stuff as well.
So do you come from money? How much did you start out with?
I definitely don't come from money. My mum worked in a school and my dad was a heavy goods vehicle mechanic. All my dad's side of the family, they all literally died at work.
Really?
So my granddad was 82, carried on going to work, went blind, carried on, went to work. My uncle was 74, he had a stroke and then carried on going to work. So no, I definitely don't come from money. But as such, started up Grenade in 2010 with a £500 UK trade investment startup loan called Passport to Export.
Oh my God.
£500 into $1 billion
That's crazy, man.
in 15 years.
Wow.
And a lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah. So we're talking to a young entrepreneur. They want to do exactly what you've done. Today, I want to get a masterclass from you on how to go from $500 to $1 billion. Can we get that?
I'll do my best.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Where are we today?
London Heliport, Battersea.
Okay.
These guys are super, super helpful.
Yeah.
So they're actually, thanks to London Heliport, because they don't have to do this. So Matt Rice, legend.
Do you know I've lived like near here for like my whole life? I never knew there was a heliport in Battersea.
That's because you don't own a helicopter.
Yeah, probably.
And I wouldn't suggest you buy a helicopter either, to be perfectly honest. But if you want to charter one,
Yeah.
Thunder Aviation into Battersea.
Yeah.
You
Why
can't go wrong.
did you get a helicopter? What for?
Just, it's a time machine. I'm super busy. I've got 3 property businesses.
Yeah.
Like I'm currently living in Cornwall. I can take a 6-hour drive, or I can be home in an hour 40 minutes from a helicopter.
What made you get into the FMCG business? What made you start Grenade?
So I've always been involved in training and performance nutrition, and then I had a distribution business importing supplements from the US.
Okay.
And I guess I got tired of being the middleman. I was finding then there were really good products that were badly marketed, but then there were poor products that were really well marketed. And I thought, why can't we just have a great product that's well marketed?
Yeah.
And no one seemed to be doing it. And also a lot of the brands have got enormous ranges. There were hundreds of supplements, hundreds of products in there. I thought, you actually don't need that much stuff. I was looking at the likes of Pepsi and Coke and Red Bull thinking, well, they've got like one product. Why can't I have one product? So I decided I'd focus on weight loss.
Yeah.
And I set up Grenade in 2010 with my wife. And we just thought we'd focus on one product, which was weight loss.
Yeah.
We made it the #1 selling weight loss product in the country within 2 years. Never had a day off, never took a salary. 4 years later, the business was valued at 35 million. So we sold some shares, and then I thought we can actually do better than this.
Yeah.
So we started protein bars, and we didn't invent protein bars, but we invented good ones. We just thought, if we can make a protein bar that's high protein, low sugar, that's just better for you, people will buy these.
Yeah.
And put them in all the locations that you could buy a Red Bull and a pasty and a Mars bar. I think these will sell. Nobody believed us, and I was told not to launch the bars, but did it anyway. And here we are, now 120 million bars a year,
Oh my God.
and growing rapidly.
120 million. So that $500 that you had, $500,
£500.
What did you do with that investment? How did you flip that in the beginning?
So we invested in a show, and we borrowed a tank off a friend of mine. It was just myself and my wife at the time. We borrowed a 17-ton Abbott self-propelled gun,
Oh my God.
and we drove it into Body Power, which is a big fitness show.
Yeah.
In the May of 2010. We didn't really have much of a plan or a strategy, other than we knew we had a really good product, and we just wanted to make a statement and just let the world know that Grenade had landed.
Yeah. So how did you have the product made before you did that? Or?
Yeah, so we had it made, and I'd got contacts in the sports nutrition industry for 20 years, because I've been a distributor, so I always think Grenade's a 35-year overnight success, because Grenade's 15 years old, but I spent 20 years in health and fitness, but prior to that, so I knew everyone, I'd got a good reputation as a distributor. I first started working in the fitness industry at 15 years old in my local gym, so I'm 48 now, so this has been my 34th year of being in health and fitness. So we managed to get suppliers to work with us, to back us, to give us extended credit terms. So like 60 or 90 days credit.
If you could kind of boil it down to a formula in that launch phase, what is that for women formula?
Everything's important. We never ever left any stone unturned. If we thought of it, we did it. If I could sum it up with a couple of words: consistency. It's a bit like training. You don't go to the gym once and look the way you want to look. Business is the same. You've got to keep on showing up. The key is you've got to have a great product and a great brand. With that consistency, that adds up over time. It has to, like training or diet or whatever. This, it's cumulative. It adds up over time. The other thing, attention to detail. We are just OCD with attention to detail. Every year, we'll look at the Grenade product. I'll look at the Grenade product. I was doing this Monday night at the Baller League, trying our products and saying, is this still the best product that we can make? Because if we can make a better one, so can someone else. So we disrupt ourselves before someone else disrupts us. A brand is never finished. So if you think it's finished, you're kind of done. Someone else will come and overtake you.
So I think there's a couple of gems in there as well for people that are trying to start their business. So the first thing is you were in the industry at the beginning.
That's right.
You had
stick to what you know.
Yeah, stick to what you know. And then you didn't worry about not having the resources to start. You used your contacts.
Personality's free. I learned this at school. And someone said to me years ago, you could buy something for a tenner, Alan, you could sell it for a fiver, and yet somehow you've made money. There's a compliment in there, I think, somewhere. We'd have meetings with retailers, and they'd say, we shouldn't really do this. We really like you. So personality's free. Everyone can have one. So we go into a meeting, say with Tesco or Amazon, and we'd make sure that it was the best meeting they had that week. The enthusiasm for a brand is infectious, because as a founder, the brand is an extension of yourself. And if the founder doesn't believe in it, why would anyone else? What I'm trying to say is, to your listeners, be yourself. But personality is a very valuable asset, and people waste that.
So in a minute, we'll drill into the secret strategy. But before that, can you give us a little tour around of the?
Of course, Heliport? Gives me time to think of a secret strategy as well.
Is this your helicopter?
Here she is, this is the one. Right on time. In fact, she's 6 minutes early.
Oh my God, the wind's blowing me away.
She's got bags of power. So this is a Bell 505 Jet Ranger. 2.5 years old. And it took me a long time to get that registration. So the eagle-eyed view.
I see G-Nade on there.
So Golf November Alpha Delta Echo. So G-Nade, I bought that a few years ago. So she lives on that machine.
So Alan, where are we at this current minute?
Currently sat in Delta Echo, so my Bell 505. Still at London Heliport, haven't gone anywhere yet. We're just picking up some fuel. And then, we'll wrap up some questions and then we'll be off.
So going back to your story, you said, what was your biggest win, would you say? And you thought, okay, I've built something here.
I think, to be honest, just turning up every day. And the first win, to be honest, is actually starting the business and having the idea. That's your first win, because most people never actually do that. I think every day you turn up to work is a win. And I think, it depends how you define a win, but, your first listing of your first product in Tesco is a win, as is Holland and Barratt. The first time you hire a member of staff and you manage to find one person that's crazy enough to follow you, that's a win. And I think, even the first mistakes that you make, that you overcome, that's a win. So I think as long as you're there and you're plugging away and you're still trading and still operating, the wins keep on coming.
Quick one, guys. As you know, when starting a business, sorting out your finances is the longest part. When I first started the venture room, I was up all night juggling taxes, invoices, and tracking expenses. That's why today I'm excited to share we partnered with Thai Business. the award-winning finance platform that does it all. From managing your expenses, tracking your taxes, and helping you get the most effective rates on your business savings. All from one place, right from your phone.
Love that, man. And as entrepreneurs, we already know time is money. So I want an app that saves me both. And with Tide, you can open up a business account in 24 hours. And if you sign up using our link, spend £100, you get £50 back. No fluff, no hidden fees, just everything you need to run your business all in one place. So if you're building something, now's the time.
I love that, man. Super easy. Check the link in the bio for your exclusive discount. Let's keep the ball rolling. Everything you do, you stand out, right? What would you say makes you different? What's like the $1 million strategy that you used to
So
stand out?
I think the fact that we invented our strategy, you know, we were taking tanks into fitness shows. No one had ever done that before. We were driving tanks through central London. We just, you know, we pride ourselves in doing the right thing. We support the military, we support police and emergency services and NHS workers. We're not focused on the bottom line. We make the best product we can, regardless of cost. So I think just again, keeping that the brand as an extension of the founders is just really important.
And I noticed that you're very resourceful, and obviously everything you do, you look to stand out. You don't want to be the norm. And you use those kind of PR stunts to kind of stick out.
Well, yeah, I don't know what normal is, to be honest. So I think if it just feels right, then you know we should do it. So we love being disruptive. There's a really fine line between being disruptive and disrespectful. So that actually became one of the 5 pillars of Grenade. Was actually about being disruptive but not disrespectful.
Okay. And while I've got you, so we're thinking to an audience of maybe 25 to 35-year-olds who want to start their first business. They haven't got much money. How would you turn $500 into $1 million? How would you make your first $1 million today?
I mean, look, it depends on the business, and my thing's sports nutrition, but I'd say first thing, stick to what you know, leverage your personality, unbelievable hard work. You know, it takes a lot of risk. You know, my wife and I, when we started Grenade, we made a conscious decision not to have children because we didn't want the distraction, the focus, or the cost. Oh, wow. So that was a conscious decision we made because, you know, Grenade was the baby. So these are the decisions that I think you have to make if you want to start something. You know, you have to give it your all. So for the first 4 years, we never had a day off. We never took a salary. You know, it takes an enormous amount of sacrifice. You have to really believe, and you know, it's incredibly tough. So the lowest point, we thought we'd lost the house, but we decided, okay, if we lose the house, we'll start again. So you just have to face the worst things that can happen and just manage the downside, you know, protect the downside of what's the worst thing that can happen. And, you know, if the worst thing happens is you lose your house, we're not dead, we'll do it again. So I just think, you know, the thing I learned from my family, like I said, it didn't come from money, but they had this unbelievable work ethic. And I think that the work ethic is critical. But there's like 15 to 20 components of running a business and you have to do all of it.
Yeah, I love that. So I know 80% of it is probably mindset. For the other 20%, what are the steps you take to build $1 million business if you had the $500 today?
I mean, again, look, the first thing, we made a product that we knew was market-leading product. So, and, you know, my thing's sports nutrition, but whether it's AI or, you know, you've got a clothing business or a food business, I think the first step is to make sure you've got the very best product that you can make that's better than everything else on the market. There's got to be a reason for people to invest in your brand and invest in your product, because I see a lot of brands out there and they solve problems that don't exist. You know, they create products that the industry just doesn't need. You know, if you create a clothing brand today, no one's running around here naked. You know, you don't need to invent clothing. You've got to give people a reason to you know, to wear that clothing. I'm an investor in ThroughDark, so we make performance clothing for the military. So there's a story behind that. So I think to answer your question, you've got to have this authentic backstory that people buy into. These are the first steps, because I think unless you get those first steps right, I just don't see how you can succeed. And you've got to then show up every day relentlessly and keep plugging away. This stuff doesn't happen overnight. I'm 15 years into Grenade and I still feel like I'm getting started. And I had a 20-year apprenticeship in sports nutrition prior to starting Grenade. That was my learning curve. So I'm 35 years in and I'm still learning stuff. So, you know, every day's a learning day. You have to keep on learning. The minute you think you know it all, you know, you definitely don't.
So just looking forward to the future, is there like an untapped gap in the market? What's the $1 billion business opportunity?
If I could see an untapped gap in the market, I'm not sure I'd tell you.
That you wouldn't go for, though? I
think you have to make the gaps. Like I said, you know, we didn't invent protein bars. Protein bars have been around for 30 years. We just made good ones and made them popular. You know, was that a gap? To look at it, no, because they already existed. But good ones didn't exist. So I think the tip I'd give your listeners is, if you look at the industry that, you know, stick to what you know, like I said, but if you look at your industry that you know, have a look at it and think, can I make that better? Because if you can, you should.
Okay.
And that's, I think, the first step of starting to think about a business or a brand, and then make it unique, make it about you, give consumers a story they can buy into.
Okay, I love that, and I do appreciate that. But for something they can
But
take
there's
away.
a but. Yeah, you want a blueprint, don't you? You actually want the secret sauce.
Exactly, something they can take away. Is there like a particular product that you say, okay, that can be?
I mean, look, I'll tell you. I'll answer it by saying what we're doing next. You know, we're going to do the same with shakes that we've done with bars. So we think there's an opportunity to make protein shakes better. We've had a great protein shake in the market for about 6-7 years.
Okay.
We just can't get the supply. We can't get the volume.
Yeah.
That's now rectified because it's great selling 15, 20 million protein shakes a year, but I want to sell 100 million protein shakes a year. So, you know, is it a gap in the market?
Yeah.
No. Remember as well, you know, with food, you know, in the UK, people have a lot of choice. So if they're not buying your product, they're buying someone else's.
Yeah.
They're buying something, and they're probably not buying both. So yeah, is that a gap? I don't know, but that's what we're doing next.
Okay, I'm excited to see that. So someone's got their concept today. Where do they go to find a supplier for that product?
Okay, I mean, it depends on what the industry is. You know, I mean, if it's clothing, you know, top suppliers being, you know, Vietnam, Portugal, China, wherever. To be honest, when we founded the business and we had backing from UK trade and investment, like I said, it's really important to me to make everything as much as we could in the UK.
Okay.
And we've always continued to do that. So obviously the world's a very fragile place at the moment. There's lots of disruption. Try and make it, you know, make it here if you can. I just think, you know, why have the complications of currency and logistics and worldwide shipping and worldwide issues?
Yeah.
Make it as close to you as you can. You might pay more for it, but it probably works out cheaper in the end.
How would you launch your billion-dollar idea with no money?
Okay, well, when you've got the product made, you've got to get people to buy it and drink it, haven't you? So what I did when I had my distribution business years ago is I put products in the back of my car.
Okay.
I drove to my local gym and said, do you want to buy some protein shakes or some protein bars? And they said, no, because they don't sell. And I said, okay, then I'll give them to you on sale or return. I'll leave them here. I'll come back next week. And if they've sold, pay me. And if they haven't, don't. So they said, okay, then. And that's how I started years ago.
Yeah.
So I basically gave it away because I believed in the product. So I basically gave it away on the basis that if it sold, they'd pay me. And I did that with my local gym. Just to finish that story, I actually went to that gym for 3 weeks on the trot and they hadn't sold very much.
Oh, okay.
But I
So you were
persevered.
nervous,
I persevered.
And then is there like a secret software tool or a business hack that you've learned that someone could implement today?
In terms of a business hack, the business hack for me in terms of work is I've made sure it never feels like work.
Yeah.
So because one thing, the day I started Grenade, it's the last job I'll ever have. I've never had a job. I've had every job at Grenade, but I've never had a job at Grenade because I've enjoyed all of it. So I think that's the biggest hack is, you know, enjoy that journey up the mountain because the view from the very top is temporary and then you're coming back down the mountain.
Was it all worth it?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Ask me in 20 years.
Where can they find you?
Find me personally or find our brand?
Where do you live? No, Instagram.
yeah, my address is. So you can find our product. If you've ever been in a shop in the UK, we're in it. So you'll find us all over the UK, and again, most countries you go to now, you'll find Grenade.
Instagram?
And in terms of me, yeah, so I'm Al Barratt, founder of Grenade, and you can find me on Instagram, and I prefer LinkedIn. But you'll find me on there as well, but you'll find me on socials, so yeah, I'm easy to find.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Much appreciated.
Guys, go get yourself a Grenade bar ASAP.
Or two.
Or two, yeah.
We'll be running with the lions, lions.